Come on, what's it doing? What's it doing?
It is the stroke of midnight, everyone, and we all know what that means. Coming to you live from the old Montana prison in Deer Lodge, Montana, it's Jokes for Ghosts with Charley Macorn. I will be your hostess with the mostest, Lenny Peppers, and up first, we're going to bring you some music. We're going to have some trumpet by Jordan Demander.
Hey, thanks, Lenny. Thanks, everyone. Just gonna play a couple tunes for you guys. Thanks, everyone.
That was Jordan Demander, everyone. I hope everyone enjoyed the trumpet. I'm going to now start off the show with 5 minutes of some jokes. So, Lenny Peppers. My comedy name is Many Ha-Has. So I recently moved into a house, and honestly, I'm kind of scared. I'm thinking that maybe my house is haunted. I'm sure some of you guys can help me out here and tell me if this is real. So what is going on is that I am finding all of my oven mitts in weird places around the house, like upstairs in the bathroom. Yeah. I'm starting to think that maybe I have a potholdergeist. I do have 6 kids. I know what you all are thinking, that I look far too young and beautiful to have a career in comedy. Yeah, and you're right. No, I do. I have 6 kids. And those 6 kids are all Cheyenne, and I had to come up with 6 Indian names for those kids. So ultimately, what I ended up doing was naming them after the birth control that they were conceived on. Yeah. The first one is named after Yaz, the birth control pill. Then, of course, we have little Patch, little thing you stick on your back, it's cute. Then, of course, we have pull-up method. Yeah. They're twins. Then we have tiny little Nuva, has a ring to it. Then, of course, there's bouncing baby IUD. Just kidding. I mean IUD, although it looks like an IUD has gone off down there after I've had 6 kids. So, I had a friend in June who put up this post that was during June, which is now Pride Month, for those of you spirits out there that don't know, that there is no straight sex during Pride Month. And I like that. I think I'm going to keep that. Except my new thing is that there will be no missionary position during American Indian Heritage Month. Yeah. And maybe, while we're at it, no cowgirl either. Yeah. But reverse cowgirl is okay, because that's basically an Indian princess anyway. So we are super excited to bring you all this show tonight. And next we have up our amazing performer who put all of this on. It's Charley Macorn.
Montana prison. Let's make some noise. I wasn't sure what was going to happen there. Hello, my name is Charley Macorn. I am so glad to be with you here today. This is a very unique and auspicious show. First of all, thank you for having us here. We know that you don't get a lot of entertainment out here, except for all those awful ghost hunters that come through. Those guys look like jerks. We're making fun of them forever. Not us, though. We're here for a great show. This is a show, however, that has some very interesting problems, very unique problems with it. Primarily that your cultural references stop 40 years ago at best, and at worst, you predate the art form of stand-up comedy by 50 years. So it's tough writing jokes for an audience who doesn't know how things have changed in the last 40 years, because a lot has changed. For example, this is what women look like now. Now for tonight's show, we know you might not be the most vocal crowd, so we have something we want to help you out with over here, which I'm going to point out. We have a European yes board set up here, along with some sort of computer reader. We got some smokes, we got some beers for you here. If the spirit so moves you, no pun intended, feel free to move this planchette from the letters H to A to H to A, indicating laughter. Or if you want to do it even shorter, you can go from L to O to L, which is something my generation says to indicate that they're laughing out loud, even though they really aren't. So let's talk a little bit about stand-up comedy. It's an art form that you might not know. And if I had to explain what stand-up comedy was, I would explain it like a magic trick. So I have a deck of brand new cards here. Popping that open. There we go. Deck of cards. So stand-up comedy is like a magic trick. I tell you a story, and it seems to be spontaneous. It seems to create the illusion of something spontaneous happening. However, it's not. It's rehearsed, it's perfected, it's a show. So for example, I can tell you a story about how there are only 3 ways to shuffle a deck of cards. The first is the flutter shuffle, which I am awful at. Oh boy, I'm super awful at that. Let me try that one again. How's your liberal arts degree doing, Charlie? Pretty good, pretty good. There we go. The other way to shuffle a deck of cards is the overhand method. History lesson invented by the French, originally to completely reverse the order of the cards. But then we lazy Americans got a hold of it, and it turned into this. And there's the way that I invented. It's called the drunken shuffle. What you do is you take the cards, and then you flip them, and then you flip them, and then you flip them, and then you flip them. So now we have a deck of cards that is every which way. We have cards that are front to back, cards that are back to front, we have cards that are front to front, and I'm sure if I look deep enough into these here, I can even find a set that is back to back. Back to back. But then you're asking, Charlie, how do you play cards when they could be any which way? Well, every time I shuffle these cards, here comes the punchline. Here comes the humorous twist added to the story. All the cards go back to the same order. Except sometimes the ones in the middle. That's what we're doing here. It's a magic trick. Comedy is rehearsed. Comedy is perfected. Comedy is something that you work at. It's not just something that you do, it's something that you have to work for. And that's what I'm going to try to do for you today. Now, not all of my jokes are going to reach all audiences. I'm sorry, but none of my jokes are universal with a capital U. But I hope that, much like my regular shows, they're well enough done that they make you laugh a little bit at least. So before we actually get into that, we want to make sure that you are fully entertained even if you don't understand or appreciate stand-up comedy. So please help me welcome Boxcar, Cedar, Everett, and the Haunted Hayride.
Yodelay, yodelay, yodelay. I went out last Tuesday, met a girl named Charley. I told her I was the swellest man around. We started to spend my money. She started to call me honey. We took in every cabaret in town. We're in the jailhouse now. We're in the jailhouse now. We told the judge right to his face, we didn't like to see this place. We're in the jailhouse now. Adi-yodelay.
Big round of applause for Boxcar, Cedar, Everett, and the haunted Hayride. So stand-up comedy originated on vaudeville, usually between comedy teams where one or two, well not one, but 2 or 3 or 4 different people would set up some sort of rapid fire back and forth. They would use several stock characters like the childish simpleton or the straight man.
Charlie, you playing the straight man?
Not anymore, I'm not.
Okay, well, howdy, Charlie.
Well, howdy, Brooklyn, how you doing?
Oh, good. Aren't you a little afraid of doing a show in a abandoned prison?
No, not at all. This isn't even the scariest place I've ever done a show.
An abandoned prison isn't the scariest place you've ever done the show?
No. I've done shows in Billings.
Now, you know, some people say that ghosts are just rumors.
Rumors, well, the landlords they have locked up in here, that's for sure.
What?
Rimshot. There we go, thank you.
Well, is it true that you tried to bring the game warden with you tonight?
I did, but she couldn't make it. She couldn't get a haunting license.
Well, that one didn't even make any sense.
That's fine, Brooklyn, that's fine. But then as vaudeville evolved, and usually because one or more members of these comedy teams were fucking assholes, they broke off into single performers, sort of the origin of stand-up comedy as we know it. And a lot of these jokes they would travel around with were jokes that other comedians would do, and they would sort of put their own spin on things. So for example, I can tell you a story about the man that fell into the upholstery machine. Don't worry, he's recovered now. Hey, have you folks heard the joke about the broken pencil? It has no point. I like this. Here, let me try that again. This is my rim shot gun. I'm just gonna shoot. This is good. The Second Amendment does not protect against this, but I don't care. I'm a real patriot. That's pretty good. But then as comedy moved on, as it became sort of that, it wasn't jokes that everyone knew, it became more personalized. Comedians in the 50s and 60s began to be personal and push the limits for what was okay to say on stage. This is an argument and a conversation that we are still having today. So for example, I was here in town today, and I love Deer Lodge, I grew up here. But I was here today, this guy stops me and he says, "Hey, what are you, a faggot or something?" What do you say to that, Brooklyn? What do you say to that?
I don't know. I don't like it. That's all I do.
So I look up at him and I say, "Is there a problem, officer?" But that moved on. And comedy became more personal. It became people noticing what was in their lives and trying to find universal commonality with it. So the jokes evolved, the jokes changed, but the comedians stayed the same, trying to entertain, trying to move on. Hey, speaking of entertaining, let's give it up one more time for Boxcar, Cedar, Everett, and the haunted Hayride.
Alright. Now if I had wings like an angel over these prison walls I'd fly, and I'd fly to the arms
Give it up one more time for Boxcar, Cedar, Everett, and the haunted Hayride. So now we have an overview of stand-up comedy and sort of the idea of how it evolved. We can speak more about my experiences, which is what stand-up comedy has become, a way to speak about your experiences and have people listen. All you have to do is tell jokes. That's the one thing. You can say whatever you want up here as long as you're telling jokes. And the more personal you get, the more power you seem to have. I grew up in Deer Lodge. I mentioned that to you folks. My dad was a prison guard. Here's a joke he told me. How many prison guards does it take to throw an inmate down a flight of stairs? None. He tripped. It's a joke my dad told me. And that's weird. And I always had sort of a complicated relationship with my father, and it almost got a little too complicated when I almost went to prison one time. Now, in the days since then, I've learned the history of my country, and I've learned the history of my state. And the thing that I know, and the thing that really brought me here today, the thing that sort of makes me want to do a show for you, is I'm not arguing that there weren't terrible people in this prison. But knowing that history, I know there were a lot of people here that didn't deserve to be. A lot of people died here that didn't deserve to die here either. But it's weird, that sort of, toss of the coin. A bad decision leads to a bad decision, leads to a bad decision, leads to a bad decision. I stole $30,000 from my friends, and I walked away from that. I walked away with no criminal record. I walked away into this new life where I could do things like this. And there are people who aren't me, who did much less things, that are spending their lives in places like this. Either because of the color of their skin or how much money they have. And that's a difficult thing to kind of wrap your head around, that we as a country are putting together this system that punishes people with no rehabilitation. It's a place where people come to suffer, where people are tortured, where people spend the last of their very, very precious lives in a place like this. And I almost did it, but I didn't. And that keeps me awake at night sometimes. Makes me wonder, why me? Why did I get to walk away from this? Why do I get to have such a great life when there are so many people who are suffering, who are so much better than I am in a lot of ways? Maybe that's why I'm here. So I want to talk to all of you, to the spirits haunting this place, to our spirit friends here at our comedy show, is that I don't think you deserve to be locked up here. I don't think anyone does. And I think that if we find a way to work together as a society, we can make places like this better. But we're not there yet. I'm just a weirdo doing a comedy show in a haunted prison. I'm no one important. But I get the opportunity to say things and people listen. So for the last part of this comedy show, I'm going to do some jokes that I feel may not have some universality. Some of them might be a little out of your depth, some of them might be sort of outside your knowledge. But I think it's important, because I think it's important to my soul. Got my fake microphone right here. And let me tell you a little story about a family reunion that I went to. Now, my family, like I said, maybe not the best, but we were lucky enough to marry into a nicer family. A little town called Wallen, Montana, just had a family reunion. Now I should explain, it wasn't my immediate family, it was the family we married into, which is good news for the Macorns, because, someone in their family has $1 million ranch. Someone in my family is me. But the reason I wanted to get there especially is because that next generation, the next generation of kids, my niece, who I love so much, she's 7 years old, and she was driving down from Canada with her parents. And she's in that mode a lot of 7-year-olds will get in, where they focus on just one thing. I get the reunion, and she is running around like a pinball. She's wearing a shirt with some dinosaurs on it, which might be confusing to some of you. And she had a stuffed dinosaur under one arm, and she had this book called The World of Dinosaurs. And she was looking at that book the way the University of Montana looks at its football team. Like it's the only thing that fucking matters. And I get there, and all she wanted to talk about was the wingspan of the pterodon. It's 150 meters! That doesn't sound right to me, but I honestly don't know. But the reason that she was excited, when you get into Wallen City, there's a big sign that says, "Welcome to Wallen City, population who gives a fuck." Home of the Wallen City Dinosaur and Fossil Museum. And she wanted to go to that. She wanted to go to that so bad. So I figured, I'll take her. Because here's the thing, I love her so much, even though she's not really my niece, I guess. She's like my like my fifth cousin 3 times removed, but she's 7, you know, so I call her my niece. And she calls me Aunt Charlie, which I think is sweet, And so we jump in my car, we drive out to this place, this dinosaur museum, and this place is beautiful because it's in Montana and surrounded by the natural beauty of the state. And inside is 20,000 square feet full of dinosaur statues and exhibits and games, and my niece is running around like a goddamn pinball again, just so excited, just vibrating with knowledge, just, oh, look, Aunt Charlie, it's a Triceratops. It lived in the Cretaceous period, and it weighed 9 tons. Again, that sounds right to me too. Good job. And it was so nice, and I was so happy to see her just so excited about something. And then I saw her stop. And I saw the smile fall off her face. And I walk over to see what's wrong, and she stopped at the exhibit called What Killed the Dinosaurs. And we know what it probably looked like, right? Because in the year 2019, we know what killed the dinosaurs. A meteorite struck the earth, centered up into the air, which blocked out the sun, which killed all the plants, which killed all the herbivores, which killed all the carnivores, but lesser species evolved up into us. Stand-up comedians with gender identity issues. Here's what the Wallen City Dinosaur and Fossil Museum has as What Killed the Dinosaurs. It's this painting of a bunch of dinosaurs who are failing to swim as Noah's Ark floats by. And I start looking around, and I'm seeing things I didn't notice when I first walked in there. I'm seeing things like the Earth, created 6,000 years ago by all-powerful God, and the devil buried dinosaur bones to fool scientists, and we have proof. And Montana Congressman Greg Gianforte was there. And I know you don't know who that is, but that joke is fucking hilarious if you know anything about Greg Gianforte. I look down at my niece, who has tears in her eyes because none of this stuff is in her book, The World of Dinosaurs. And she looks up at me and she says, Aunt Charlie? I said, whoa, don't call me that here, okay? Gianforte in the back. But here's the thing, and here's why I'm telling you all this tonight, you spirits of old Montana prison. You can't tell a kid that any group of people is full of shit. That's how you end up with bad adults. We're not trying to raise clones of ourselves who think the same things we do. We're trying to raise independent thinkers who will make up for their own minds, who will become the people once we're gone. So I looked down at her and I said, well, honey, some people believe that the Bible is the only way that we can really view the world, even though we have things now we didn't know about in Bible times. Things like North America, for example, South America, Japan, Antarctica, the Arctic, most of the planets in our solar system, the solar system, the universe. But the important thing is, you gotta let these people believe what they want to believe and live their lives in peace. Maybe they'll let people like me believe what I want to believe and live my life in peace, you know? That's the American way. That's the Montana way. And she looked at me and she said, these people are fucking full of shit. Don't use that language. But let's get you an ice cream. So we got out of there. That was a bad day to wear a sundress to go down to Montana, I tell you. Folks, I'm going to close the show. We talked about vaudeville a little bit earlier. And my grandfather, Horace Macorn, was a trendsetter, a trailblazer of vaudeville on the vaudeville market. And tonight is actually the anniversary of his death. And he was always a hero to me. You know, he died a hero's death fighting Germans on the beaches of Normandy exactly 1 year ago tonight. So these last jokes are his. Hey folks, do you want to hear the Macorn family recipe for ice water? You chop up an onion, make your ice water. I can't believe we're already done with this. So much work, so much preparation for such little time. And that's stand-up comedy for you. And that's art for you. We get one chance around this, we get one chance riding this blue marble around the sun, traveling at almost 1,000,000 miles an hour, moving so fast that when you learn that you can't believe it. Everything seems like it's standing still, but time doesn't stand still. Time keeps moving on. And as such then, I now have to bid you adieu. And I'd say goodbye to all of you. And on behalf of the band and my crew and whatever mortal souls are here with me this evening, thank you for having us. And I'm sorry. You don't deserve to be here. Maybe now you could use humor as some way to heal your own trauma and cross over the other side. I don't know if that works or not. I'm not an exorcist. I'm not anything. I'm just one human soul hanging on to the side of the planet. I appreciate your response. I appreciate your time. Ladies and gentlemen and non-binary friends, my name is Charley Macorn. Goodbye and good night.